your guide on the journey to wine appreciation, enjoyment, and knowledge. This is Ward on Wine with Mike Ward, brought to you by Dierbergs on the Heidi Glaus Show.
You are not losing your mind. It is not 4 o'clock on a Friday. It's a Thursday at 5:08, and we have a special edition, Ward on Wine, a day early. Mike Ward is back, and sometimes we focus on a brand or a vineyard, and I have been to different places, and let's say I wanted a particular wine, and they would say, no, but have you ever tried a Gamay? Am I saying that right?
Gamay. Yeah.
Gamay. That's what we used to call my grandmother.
But then it made me think, there's so many grape varieties out there. I don't even know what that is. I don't know if that is like a Cab. I don't know if that's like a Syrah. So I thought, let's talk about some of these more unique grapes. So that's what we're going to do today.
2,000 grapes just in Italy.
Just in Italy.
Shut it.
And
for wine.
That is hard to believe. And do most of those need to be mashed together to make the wine, or they can all stand alone?
They can't all stand alone. And only 450 of them or so in Italy are regularly used, and most of them are blends.
Oh, only.
Most of them are blends.
I've
Only
had 'em all.
450.
And we say...
I haven't had them all yet.
We say blend, but in Italy, the right term is Bordeaux?
Well, Bordeaux's a blend in France, in the
Okay.
Bordeaux region. So if you see Bordeaux on the label, it's French wine. It's a place.
Gotcha.
Chianti is a place. That most of the European wines are named after the place and not the grape variety.
So if it is a blend from Italy, what is it called?
Mostly the place name, except for
Even if it's a blend.
Yeah. So Chianti.
Okay.
Everybody's had Chianti. Everybody listening had it, know what it is. It's a blend. It's the grape is Sangiovese is the grape variety, and there's many different clones of Sangiovese, and that's included in that 2,000. And then typically that makes up the majority of the wine, and then they might add a little Cabernet Sauvignon or a little Merlot, or there's several other indigenous grapes they can add to it as well. So it's you can look at it as a blend, but it's also named after the region. Champagne is a blend typically.
Oh.
Not always, but typically.
I did not realize.
There is no champagne grape.
There are grapes used in Champagne, but Champagne's a place.
Mm-hmm.
Bordeaux's a place. Burgundy's a place.
Gosh, there's so much to know. Here's the other thing that I've seen a lot. Petit Verdot
Oh,
or
yeah.
Verdot.
Verdot.
What kind of grape is that? And is that a standalone? And what does it taste like?
Little grape. Usually you see that word petite. Petite Syrah, Petit Verdot, smaller grape. It's got a really good, thicker skin. Doesn't have a whole lot of flavor to it, but it's really used mostly for color. I mean, there are some California wineries that use it for a wine, and it's pretty good. But you may not see it as much as you'd see Chardonnay or Cabernet.
When you see Bordeaux on a bottle, it's a place. Champagne, it's a place. Is every wine that comes from Bordeaux the same?
Absolutely not.
So
not the same. In fact, they're all different.
Well, then how the heck are you supposed to keep this straight? Well, I like a Bordeaux. Well, which kind? Well, the one I had last time was pretty good.
I'll tell you, there's a river that runs right through the center of the region. And so if your Bordeaux comes from the left side of the river, it's probably mostly Cabernet Sauvignon. And if it comes from the right bank of the river, it's probably mostly Merlot.
Is there a line underneath Bordeaux that says what it is?
No, but it's really simple. So if you...
It's not.
It's
Mike.
not simple.
It is not.
Yeah.
If you know it, it's simple. You just email me. No, if you see Saint-Emilion is a little village named after an actual person. And then you go, oh, well, that's the right bank. That's going to be Merlot. Or if you were to see the word, there's a couple of little villages on the left bank, like Pauillac and Margaux is one of them, and those are going to be mostly Cabernet.
So, Heidi, all we need to do is number one, learn how to speak French. Number two, learn their geography.
Yeah.
And number three, figure out where all these little towns are in relation to this one river.
You know, you really can just open the wine and drink
just
it
drink
and have
it?
some food and just enjoy it. But if you
for
wanted to,
repeat tastings. Ooh, I really liked this wine. But if it's named after the town, then they say, well, which winery? And I'm like, I don't remember.
and I will give you this: Bordeaux is a pretty complicated region for us to pick. It's easier just to go to one of our great Italian restaurants and order a Chianti. You're probably going to get a great bottle of wine. That's easier to do. Bordeaux is a little bit more, complicated and has a history of being like that. And Bordeaux wines can be $8.99 and they can be $6,000 a bottle and everything in between, which makes it even harder.
Just like the French, complicated, just to make us angry.
So true. I just
They
want
make
to
some good
remind people, if you have a question for Mike, he is here to answer that for you. You can text us on the Woods Basement Systems text line 84126. So I'm looking at this one, and it says Zweigelt?
Zweigelt.
Zweigelt.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
where does that come from, and what does it taste like?
So I brought that today because it's a wonderful grape variety, and I've got a little side story with that grape as well. But it comes from Austria, and it's one of the red grapes from Austria. And it's been around since the 1930s. It's named after a botanist named Franz Zweigelt who crossed this grape and was the one to start planting it and growing it. And it's just a great food wine. And it starts with a Z. It's kind of fun to say. And there's actually a little Zweigelt right here in Missouri.
What?
An experimental vineyard done by the St. James Winery, our friends at St. James.
Really?
You can only get it at the winery, very small amount. But that grape growing in Missouri gives me hope that we can grow some really interesting things, including our hybrid grapes. So Zweigelt is right here down the road, down 44.
Okay, so this is something that always throws me off, and I'm just going to be honest about it. This one says red table wine. And when I see something that says red table wine, I think cheap.
Absolutely not. And that's not an expensive bottle of wine. That's like a $15 to $20 bottle of wine.
I'm with her, though.
That's kind of a European thing to say, red table wine.
So what is it really? It's just any red wine can be a red table wine?
Well, it's a classification within the more complicated classifications of European wines. That's kind of a reference to, you have dinner, you open this wine, you do want a red or a white. That's kind of their cultural thing. You can put it that way. But we tend to know wines a little bit more by the grape variety, if they're from the U.S. or from the Southern Hemisphere, and they know more by the region, of course.
Somebody said, what is the best wine for a non-wine drinker to try?
Well, here's what I would tell you. So the best wine is the one you like, of course. Typically, people who are first-timers or new to wine might like something a little bit sweeter, less intense. Maybe start with like a Pinot Grigio or something like that. It's not going to, really affect you that much. It's not going to be too bitter. Maybe something a little bit sweeter. But as you develop your palate with food, you have wine with food, and that's where you start to get it, and you start to have wines that are a little bit different, match with different things, have some fun with it.
Yeah. Somebody said I sound snooty when I said that table wine sounds cheap. I just think that the word itself is almost like the house wine.
Yeah.
Don't take it that way because they don't. Don't. It's not like house
If you
wine.
said red blend, I'd be all over it.
Yeah, it's just the wording, and that is in my head and what I have preconceived notions about. But the other thing that I think is so interesting when we're trying to figure these out, and I know we've been doing this segment, and I should know better, but does the spice, the sweetness, the notes come from the grape or how it's made?
Yes, all those things. So plant a grape in a certain environment, like right here in Missouri, and you think about the growing season, which has started, and we'll harvest the grapes in September. And so everything that happens while the grapes are growing, the amount of sunlight, the sugar in the grapes, the ripeness of the fruit, that's going to affect the flavors up front from that wine. And as it's harvested and brought to the winery, the winemaker will take that into consideration, and then they can add their own signature to the wine if they choose to put it in oak barrels or other things that the winemaker will do during the winemaking process.
So you brought in a wine